Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Eva in our studio. Eva Bergmann. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
That's correct.
And Eva comes from Denmark, but that happens to be the place where she, let's say, descended on earth. But then after having studied with followers of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the 4-year course related to art, Vedic sciences, and then she has been traveling across the globe, and especially now she has found sort of inner calling in the form of her study of gems and how reflections of the light through gems help us in a very special way. But we go to Eva and sort of try to trace the inner journey of your life in terms of what was it, you were in Denmark, and then you decided to pursue this 4-year course at Maharishi Mahesh Yogi University, which is not the normal path that many people take.
When I was about 16 years old, I learned Transcendental meditation. I was still in high school, and it really changed my life. It changed the view of how I looked at things, and even it meant a lot to my studies. And the Vedic knowledge is so beautiful, and how Maharishi has brought it out has been so profound, because it really has taught me that there's an inner intelligence which is everywhere and which is also within us. And I start seeing that this same basic knowledge you could find in every field of study. And then I thought, why just go through normal university, which in Denmark is free, and why go to abroad? But when I heard about Maharishi University of Management in Fairfield, Iowa, and I heard how they don't just study outer knowledge or objective knowledge, but also develop the student who is studying the subject. Then I just thought, this is what I would like to do, and I was fortunate to get some scholarship and all that, and to come there, and it was the most amazing years of my life.
Let's try and understand a little bit more about it. You did mention about art, creative intelligence, yes, Vedic sciences, and this is 4-year management course. So how it is basically different than the way this management course is taught in other so-called normal universities? Yes.
It's a very good question. Well, it's very interesting. When you come to Maharishi University of Management, first of all, at that time you learned a basic course like Vedic science. At that time it was called Science of Creative Intelligence. And it was like a core knowledge where you would go deeply into understand the underlying principles which underlies all knowledge. And you start relating them to the different fields of knowledge. So we would all have like 2 weeks of physics, literature, art, math. We go through all the courses called core courses. And then after we've been through that in half a year or 1 year, then we would choose our major. And my major was art. I happened to do a double major in art and Vedic science, and so I have a bachelor in art. And the interesting difference between studying at this university is that in every class, you never just study something objective. You always relate it to yourself, and also that all students, all staff, all faculty, they practice transcendental meditation, so that both as individual and also just the value of being in a group, you grow in consciousness. And consciousness is the basis of everything, and we forget that. And I think it's so beautiful because in the Indian heritage, you have this so lively in the heritage, but even I think for maybe the viewers who live here in America, one can get maybe overshadowed a little bit by day-to-day life and get tired and forget the beautiful wisdom which is really at the basis of everything. So at Maharishi University of Management, each lesson is related to the underlying universal knowledge which is behind everything, so that you never just study physics or mathematics or literature or art, but that you studied it in light of the knowledge of consciousness.
Knowledge of the consciousness. When we hear it, it sounds quite impressive, and then in our day-to-day practical life, we feel that what was she talking about? How this consciousness is applicable when I'm going to buy some vegetables, or if I am pursuing whatever career I have or business problems that I have to encounter how this consciousness is helping. And she mentioned that there is intelligence everywhere, and we see how will I make use of this intelligence. So she not only tried making use of this intelligence, but she also shared this knowledge of transcendental meditation. Before we go further, Eva, tell me, meditation itself is a very profound word.
Yes.
Then when Maharishi puts transcendental with it as prefix, how it changes?
It's a very good question. Again, it's transcendental means to go beyond. And meditation, dhyan, we know, is an inner process. And so it's transcendental meditation is a mental technique which is practiced twice daily, 20 minutes each time, just sitting comfortably. And you don't even have to believe that it works, it still works. It's interesting. Transcendental meditation allows the conscious mind to gradually go deeper within itself and find its source of thought. Because, you know, we all have thoughts all the time, but beyond the active mind, there are more subtler levels of mind, and the most subtle level of the mind, Atma, the self, consciousness, excuse me for the touching the microphone. So Atma, the self, is beyond the conscious mind. It is what nourishes everything, our mind, our body, our emotions, and everything. So when you go to the very basis of ourselves, then it's like watering the root and everything else is nourished.
So everything else is nourished, and when we talk about total nourishment, we look at various branches of knowledge related to medicine, and one of them happens to be Ayurveda, which is very, very close to the natural way of living. You shared the knowledge of transcendental meditation as well as Ayurveda. So how Ayurveda became a part of your study along with management at this university?
It's very important to be, in order to be happy, that you're also healthy. And Ayurveda is the oldest existing healthcare system in the world. I think it's extremely profound. I have seen that it's an amazing way to understand all of nature. Because in Ayurveda, you understand the underlying intelligence in everything in terms of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, the doshas. And the profound knowledge which is in Ayurveda can help you to gain health, which is much more than just absence of disease. And Maharishi really revived Ayurveda. He was the first to bring out Ayurveda really in big scale to the West and create spas and things like this. So that's why it was called Maharishi Ayurveda, to really show that this is a very profound Ayurveda. And I have found just in my personal life that my level of well-being is so much greater because of Ayurveda. You know, I do Abhyanga. I don't know if you know, it's a daily oil massage, and you know, this daily routine you can use, and there's a great wealth of knowledge how to eat in accord with your body type and how to live in accord with the season. So it's a beautiful knowledge which helps you to feel better.
I really feel better by the fact that due to the special presence of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, here is lady who comes from Denmark, studies Indian, call it philosophy or Indian way of living in Iowa, America. And then she's talking about Indian heritage to me right here in New York. Not only that, she has shared what she learned at various places in many, many countries. That includes Holland, Switzerland, France, Ukraine, of course in the United States. So how was this experience of being at so many places and sharing what you learned at Iowa with teachers who taught you at Maharishi Mahesh Yogi University?
It's a beautiful and profound. I not only have shared the knowledge, but I also learned things like in Holland I've been studying, and also in Switzerland. So part of it was studying, part of it was teaching. And there's a worldwide movement. Maharishi has established centers all over the world. And so I've been fortunate to go around and teach and live at some of these places. And it's wonderful. When I was in Ukraine, we started up a Vedic university there, Maharishi Vedic University, and to see students come from the former Soviet Union and, you know, not even having learned to meditate, and see how when they learned to meditate, the inner light was starting to shine in them, and how they were blossoming, and then to see them over the years to taking more of this knowledge and become teachers themselves to help, that was one of the most beautiful experiences I've had in my life.
You know, we'll go to the subject which is dear to you these days, related to gems. But before that, Vedic sciences and creative intelligence, how one becomes aware of the creative intelligence which is a part of oneself through Vedic science. What impressions have you gathered?
I think the Maharishi always said that there are two aspects of Vedic science and also of science of creative intelligence, the theoretical and the practical. And the practical aspect is transcendental meditation. And so that's what I said, like if you, like Veda is in some way knowledge in seed form. And if you capture the seed, you have the knowledge of the whole tree. So that's why I say go to the deepest, go to yourself, go to that practical aspect and learn to meditate. There are TM teachers here in New York and all over the US, and there are courses there how to also learn something on a more practical level to apply it.
Practical level is always important, because the knowledge, as they say, which is packed in books would be of no use. And they say knowledge, if it is not applied in your day-to-day life, it's like carrying some heavy burden on the shoulders of a donkey. That kind of simile also comes to us. But here, fortunately, we have many human beings who are applying what they learn, and Eva happens to be one of them. She assimilated different branches of knowledge, and then she probably figured out that gems, and there is a way of light therapy with the help of gems. How all this came about?
It's interesting. When I was a student in Fairfield, Iowa at Maharishi University of Management, a friend of mine knew a German man who was developing Maharishi light therapy with gems. And so I was like a guinea pig and tried that back in the 80s. And I loved it. And I had great effect of it. And so I was waiting all these years for it to come out. And finally, it has been used in Europe for many years, in Germany and Switzerland. And even health insurances have paid for it in Europe. But in 2007, Maharishi said now it was time to bring it out. And so since then, there have been lots of trainings, and I was on one of them, and I took the training to give this Maharishi light therapy with gems to other people. And so since then, I have done it in Denmark, where I'm from, and in Scandinavia, but I've also traveled extensively within the US, and currently...
Just interrupting you, explain a little bit more in detail in terms of when we say light therapy with gems, what is it that we mean, and what was the special addition from Maharishi's insight for this therapy?
Maharishi light therapy with gems enlivens the inner intelligence of the body and the body's ability to heal itself, and also expand consciousness. And like I said, consciousness is the basis of everything. And I have given over 1,200 treatments by now within the last few years, and it has been so amazing to see how each person will seem to gain something very unique for themselves. We know that gems is the most orderly in creation. The crystalline structure within the gems is unique in creation. And in the 70s, the founder and developer of this technology asked, who is called Joachim Roller, he's a German gemologist and jeweler, he asked Maharishi what he could do with gems in order to help people in their growth. And Maharishi said that he should look into Ayurveda and combine this ancient knowledge of Ayurveda with modern technology in order to help people gain higher states of consciousness and also to gain perfect health, like that.
So to gain perfect health, whatever it needs to be done, we are many times prepared, at least we are committed that will have healthy lifestyle, and sometimes there is this thing called laziness or the habit of postponing everything. So many of us have thought many times that we'll start walking every day. Even that becomes difficult. I refer to this because even now with the use of gems,
Yes.
does it have something to do with the kind of mindset that an individual have, and how do you sort of decide as to light coming from through one particular gem at certain angle, and how long it is, and what all your sessions are?
It's interesting. I just want to start by just saying, like, for example, in Jyotish, which is part of the Vedic knowledge, it's Vedic astrology. You know, we're told that certain gems are good for certain charts or certain people. Like, for me, coral and pearl is good for me. I'm also supposed to have a ruby, but still coming. And wearing a gem, which many of your viewers probably do and or have heard about, has one kind of effect because it touches the skin. But this special technology, when the special coherent light comes through the gems towards the body, has a totally different effect. And what I see is that rather than trying to say, now I have to go out walking or do things, what happens is that the body and mind and emotions and every level start being enlivened in a way that the inner intelligence is being enlivened, so that the energy of the gems will naturally go to the areas and heal in a different way. Like a person, for example, who may have hurt the foot or something like that. It may go there and help the foot, but it may also go to the arm and heal that place which the person forgot about. So it goes and helps the different areas, but also I've seen that a bigger calmness, greater well-being, more happiness. People with anxiety or depression, I've seen a lot that they were greatly relieved of their condition. And of course, you know, I can't promise anything because each person is so different. But it's been, out of all the treatments I've done, I've maybe had a few people who didn't have any effect. Other than that, it's been very, very encouraging.
So I'm just trying to visualize, if it is light therapy with gems, then I'm just thinking it's like a laboratory sort of situation. If you are on a bed and maybe they have some machines in which you have placed gems in with certain angles, is something like that?
Yes. So certain gem beamers have been developed which capture they have gems inside, very high quality, the highest quality Jyotish gems, and the special light shining through. So, and yes, you lie in a bed. So first I will do an assessment when a person comes to find out which kind of treatment to give. And then you will lie very comfortably on a bed with your clothes on. It's non-invasive, it doesn't even touch you, but it shines towards the body. And the interesting thing is that even if you come and you have a problem with your knees, for example, it's not that I shine on the knee, for example. It will still shine on the body, but because the intelligence can travel, it will naturally travel to the area where it's necessary.
So far, let's say if somebody feels that after one session they are feeling light, and allow me to say it could be a psychological thing also, because it was some light and they were at least sitting quietly. So maybe it could result into something, feeling good about yourself, because your mind is comparatively at rest when you are not active and you are not supposed to take notes or to call anybody. That also might result into something good. The reason is, how would you quantifiably measure that it was the effect of the light coming through gems?
I've had so many experiences. I can give one example, for example. I had one man who wrote me and said that he was supposed to get new glasses, but he asked if Maharishi light therapy with gems could help him to get better vision. And I said, just like I said to you, that, you know, I can't promise anything, but my experience is that the inner intelligence is being enlivened. So why don't you try it? And I forgot who it was, and the person came and wrote me afterwards that when he drove home after the third treatment, he just noticed that his vision suddenly was clear, whereas his glasses before did not correct his vision. Suddenly it did. And I wrote him months later, like 3, 4, 5 months later, and it still kept the vision. So, and I've had people with backache, where the backache went away, or headache, where the headache went away, and so many different ailments, like a person who normally would go to physiotherapist because of having broken a wrist in an accident, and she said that this treatment helps so much more than the physical therapist. And you know, all these things, when you have so many experiences, they cannot all be just the mind thinking it. A person, you know, many people have tried everything. I've had people who have had very serious conditions who have been so relieved. Like just here in New York, a man had sciatica, and he's done every kind of therapy, and for 1 year he was in extreme pain. And just with 2 treatments, it went almost away. And
sorry to interrupt,
it's
Eva.
okay.
Has there been any study conducted on the effect of light therapy through gems, whereby one could be more sort of convinced that it is not just like that? I mean, there is some substantial thing.
There are studies on the way. It's still new. There have been some preliminary studies which show that the coherence in the brain is increased during Maharishi light therapy with gems, which shows that there's profound effect. The other thing one can say is there are several health insurances in Europe. They were in Switzerland and in Holland and in Germany, which have paid for the treatment, and they don't pay for treatment if it's not something which is working. So obviously it has been used in Europe for more than 20 years. So.
And how many minimum sessions do you think are necessary for someone to really feel, or one session is enough, or?
I think it's great to come for one session. You know, of course it's wonderful if you can do 3, but I've had people who came for one session, like one person who had asthma, who stopped taking medicine after one session. And more than that, I think rather than just speaking about the physical ailments you can have, I think it's very important also to realize the value of expanding our consciousness and to have the experience of when the Vedas call Atma and Brahm and everything, the self and totality. I've had a person who came in and who, after the treatment, when I asked her how it was, she said she traveled the whole universe. And it's like we read in the Vedas about all these beautiful statements of expanded consciousness and like that, but to experience it is something which can be the most profound experience of your life.
Considering the time limitation, the most important question many times is the practical side of it, which relates to not only expanding consciousness, but also how much you want to expand your budget in order to undertake certain things. I'm combining 2 questions. Yeah. One, when people think that this is some sort of service, then why there should be monetary compensation for that? I mean, that's one question. Secondly, if it is helpful, then rather than bothering Eva or someone with this knowledge, why don't one would have those gems and like do it as and when it's needed?
The equipment is extremely expensive, and only it's hard to create. So there are not that many sets of this equipment in the world, so it will be much more expensive to get the equipment than to just get a treatment. One treatment costs $160, 3 treatments is $450, and of course part of the money goes to the local center which is hosting me, some goes to the national, and you know, it goes here and there, so it doesn't end up very much for each person. So it's like, you know, I you know, considering the travel cost and everything, I think it's very cheap, especially for the effect I've seen.
Wonderful. So we definitely have this effect that knowledge of consciousness is very, very important, and whichever way you find a way to expand your consciousness, it adds to your ability to enjoy your life and your experiences in a way which would probably not be possible with the narrow sort of mindset. Having said that, I really appreciate Eva Bergmann for taking your time and coming all the way from Denmark to New York and to ITV studio. Lots of good wishes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to her, and thanks to all of you for being with us. This is Ashok Vyas.